So, welcome. And in the next 40 minutes, I try to be shorter than usual because we are hungry for the lunch. So we'll talk about recruiting, hiring, and why sometimes they tend to be overlooked and underestimated by most of the companies out there, and what we can do about this. Sorry. Just okay, fine. I'm Pietro. I work in Peppers as a Agile coach and coder. And in my experience, I helped the team in our office in Trento to grow from the ground up, and also in the consulting activities that I followed. It happens to me to help team grow from zero and help them to become a agile team. So I bring this kind of experience today. Before we start, I want to ask you, how many of you do know the recruitment process adopted by their own company? Raise your hands if you don't know. Okay. And how many of those who raise their hands are actually involved in the process? Okay. And how many of you are think that their recruitment process is good enough? Okay. Lots to improve. So, I want to start with a strong statement. The statement is, through great hiring, you will be able to transform your organization. This is a quote from Sean Landis, which wrote this book that I suggest you to read if you are interested in this topic. And this is the baseline of my talk. I think that this is true, and I want to help you today to start reflecting about your recruitment process and the value that you're getting from it, and how can you improve this value. Throughout my working experience, I have evidence of two facts, basically. The first fact that I have evidence of is this one. Great companies always have an hiring process which is quite advanced, mature, and thoughtful. And I'm sure that if you think of companies which you consider great, probably they have a strong recruitment process. The second fact is that way too many companies tend to either overlook or underestimate their recruitment process. And if you are a fan of Star Wars, you probably know this Lego guy, which is Anakin Skywalker, and is the one that probably show how a bad recruitment process can destroy your company. And so I start reflecting on how, in my experience, are the warning signs that probably your company is not giving value to their recruitment process. If you are asking 5-year experience in Docker, probably you have this kind of trouble. Warning signs. If you don't know what your hiring process is, this is quite a warning sign for me. Also, if you are not involved in the hiring process, maybe you know what is the process roughly, but you cannot take part on the decisions. Or maybe your involvement in the process is irrelevant. Also, if the skill levels, technical skill levels of the team are not where you expect it to be, so you see that you cannot create a great technical team. You are not satisfied with the level that you have. Also, new colleagues just don't fit. There's no chemistry, there's no compatibility. And this is another sign. Other signs, you just publish your wonderful job description on your site, on every job, online job ad site around, but you still receive too few applications. Or even worse, you receive tons of applications, and they are all, or quite all, out of target. They are not the kind of people you are searching for. Another bad sign is that you go through the process, you have a good candidate, but the candidate doesn't accept the offer. And it's not a salary issue, maybe. In the end, I think that the sign that is telling you that there's something wrong with your process is that your company doesn't grow. Even if it's growing, even if it's hiring people one by one, you don't have the feeling that you are growing as a company. So, let's talk about the hiring process as a whole. I think that there are three essential elements in the hiring process. And they are sourcing, assessing, and onboarding. Sourcing candidates is the first step in the process of recruiting new people. And this means being able to answer this question, how to make people apply, and by the way, how to help wrong candidates to not apply. This is the area where you have to work with techniques that will help you attract suitable candidates. This means thinking about your hiring strategy and coming with a job analysis and creating a proper job description, publishing this job description in your corporate site or maybe using online job sites, using external recruiting agencies to help bring you resume, using social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on, to find new candidates, sponsoring events, like this one, for example, and then ask for CVs to the attendants, joining and contributing to open source projects to gain visibility in the kind of technologies that you want to work with. Also, establishing affiliation programs with universities and internship programs will help you. Then there is the second phase, which is, okay, I have a candidate, I have to decide if it's good enough. Is this person the right one for our team and our company? This is the question. And here we come with knowing the candidate, really getting to know the candidate. This means screening the resume and reviewing it, testing the technical skills and social skills, bringing the candidate on site and interview him or her, and have auditions, so practical session where the candidate can show somehow his or her abilities. Then you have to take a decision, and make an offer that the candidate will not be able to reject, let's say. Then there is the third phase, which is kind of strange, by the way, because every one of you knows that the hiring process ends when the candidate is recruited, so becomes your new employee. I don't think that that's correct, or maybe I don't think that that's the proper way to work, because I'd like to think that you have finished your recruitment process when you have a new team member, a first-class citizen of your team. So this means spending effort to answer this question: how can new employees reach a good level of proficiency and integration in the team in the shortest time possible? This means taking all the kinds of activities that help the candidate, the employee, to become a team member. So having activities like boot camps, where the candidate, like for workshops in test-driven development, or workshops where the employee can know the product and the market in which your company is working, what are the competitors, for example, and so on. So boot camps are practical workshops where the employee can learn together with other employees, new employees maybe, and with senior or old employees in the company, providing a study path to the employee so that he can learn the way that the team works, test-driven development, how Agile methods works, if you use Agile methods, and so on. Tutoring, so giving the employee a tutor that can follow him and help him grow day by day, and peer reviews. So, all these kind of techniques. Coming to recruitment workflows, there are many examples, and probably Dilbert is one of the best sources if you want to explore dysfunctional workflows. Today I don't want to talk about dysfunctional hiring processes, so let me just show you a more proper, classical and modern, let's say, recruitment workflow. I take this one from a couple of books that I read, but I had the choice to verify that it quite fit to many hiring process I saw in other companies. Apart from experts, I talked to friends working outside Italy, for example in Google, in eBay, and other companies outside in the world. And this quite fit. So there's a first step, which is, okay, let's assume that I don't take the sourcing candidates phase. So taking the sourcing candidates phase as done, you receive the resume. So you have to screen the resume, you have to perform one or more phone interviews, and if you decide that the candidate is good enough, you bring it in your company and you perform in-person interviews and auditions, as I said before, and then you have to decide if the candidate is good enough to work in your company and make an offer. We in Experts use a similar process. We tend to replace the phone interviews with an attended test. So we give the candidate an exercise, a programming exercise, which the candidate can solve in 3 working days typically. And we use this as a sort of screening, after screening the CV. This is because probably we tend to have candidates which are quite near our locations. So probably big companies like Google, for example, have a worldwide market for candidates, so they tend to use the phone screen interview to get in touch with the candidate. And then we have an in-person interview on site typically, if it's possible. And then typically a full day of session in the teams, because we are an agile team, so it's important for us to check the ability of candidates to work in a team and do pair programming and so on. So we use pair programming to assess the candidate. So we use a full day in which the candidate can work with us, working with open source projects we have, or maybe doing an exercise with us and so on. Then we have the hiring decision, and then we make an offer. So quite similar. Yeah. We handle this process using a board, which is quite important for us. So this is a fake board, but the steps are quite similar to our ones. And unfortunately, we are not hiring Ken Beck or Sandro Mancuso, but this is just an example. We have a board, so we have a board with all a column for each state in the workflow, starting from the left, going to the right. And as the candidate goes through our process, we collect information of the candidate and we attach to the card. We use a Trello board, so it's an electronic board, and it's easy to attach the CV in this phase, and then the test that we send to the candidate, and then the comments made by our reviewers, code reviewers, and then the feedbacks of the interviews, and so on. So at the end, if the candidate goes through all these steps, we have all the information we need to take a proper decision, a more informed decision. So, coming to the hiring principles I learned in these experiences. The first one is quite obvious, but I will say again. I learned to start reflecting on my own recruitment process. So, this means if you have an HR department, bring the HR department in a room with you, with your team, and try to reflect on your process. Try to express verbally your process. Try to draw it, visualize it as in a board. And because visualization brings shared understanding. And while sometimes, if you don't visualize, there are many things that remains unsaid or implicit. So I think that the recruitment process is this one, but while you think that there is this other one. And moreover, you don't see the whole process. Maybe you see just this phase, but you don't know that in order to work properly you need to help the upstream and the other phases in the process. So it's really important to start reflect, and I suggest you to use a board, to draw a board to reflect on this. And it's quite similar to, if you know Kanban, it's quite similar to Kanban as a principle. So visualize and see unrealized improvement opportunities, and then address these opportunities. So visualization is where you start. So try to describe where you are now, and this is the first step to know where you want to go. The second principle is don't think that your process should be fixed forever. Keep improving. Especially if you use agile methods, there's no reason why you should not consider improvable and your process. So you should start from where you are and go from where you want to go in small steps and iterate. So as Roberto said, tomorrow you should also plan small safe-to-fail experiments. And if you have a board, by the way, you have a first element to watch. And probably you should start also collecting metrics on your process. How much does it cost? How much time do you spend on your recruitment process? And how much time do you spend in candidates that will not be recruited, will not be hired at the end? So this is quite important. And we use metrics for this. We start using metrics not so much time ago, but the point is that if you have a board, you probably have, it's easy for you to grab metrics. The first one is just count how many candidates are in each step and what is the percentage of the candidates that goes from one column to the next one, because this gives you an indication of effectiveness of that step. For example, in the resume screening, we measure the resume quality by counting how many CVs we discard. So if we discard 70% of the resume we receive, probably there's some problem in the upstream. Maybe we use external agencies that give us the candidates, and these external recruiters are not working so good. Or maybe we give a bad job description because we don't explain what we are looking for. So this is a good method to spot problems in the upstream. Also, I can count how many of the candidates that made it through the screening in the CV are rejected in the next step. This helps me understand how much open, let's say, generous I am in evaluating the CVs. Probably I'm letting go through the workflow too much bad CVs. I should try to be more choosy, probably. Another lesson is involve all the team. This is quite important. The best strategies comes from when you involve all the team in the recruitment. And there's a principle in extreme programming which said, it's called accepted responsibility, which basically said that you should always keep aligned the entity that takes the decision and the entity that live with that decision. With this in mind, you should always try to involve all the team, because the team will live with that candidate, with that person. So they should be involved from the start of the process. And having a board helps in this, because if you have a public board, everyone can see who are the candidates, can offer for help, so can say, okay, I will review the exercise, or can follow the process and can give feedback. So involve all the team. Another lesson is that probably if you are building a company of individual contributors, you don't have to care about social skills too much. But if you want to build a team, and especially if you want to build an agile team, you really have to value social skills just like the technical skills, or even more. Because you are building a team, agile team, that have to have values like communication, feedback. Every member has to be able to ask for help. Every member has to be able to express their feeling in a proper way, handle conflicts, and collaborate and be interdependent. So it's really important to plan your strategy so that you can evaluate also social skills and consider it more valuable. This is another quote from another book that I suggest, is Hiring Geek That Fit. And basically said this: cultural fit will trump all technical skills every time. Next, I learned that you should know your organization and know your team to build a proper hiring process. For example, if you want to assess cultural values in the candidate, you probably should start reflecting on your own cultural values. What are the values embraced by my team? What are the values embraced by my company? And this is a good exercise to do, because it gives you the possibility to reflect on something that maybe you never spend time on. So trying to express the values which are embraced by all your team. And you should try to build a process which is should be congruent with the way you work. So if you work in an agile way, there's no reason why you should not use the same principles and values in building your hiring process. So for example, you should give short feedback to the candidate. If the candidate has been rejected, you should give him feedback as soon as possible. When the candidate sends you the CV, you should respond to the candidate, thank you, we received your CV, we'll let you know in X days. There's no reason to... I saw way too much times people just not taking care of responding to the candidates, even if they embrace respect, for example. So try to build a process which is congruent. Another thing is, don't confuse cultural fit with personality fit. Cultural fit is important. While when it comes to delivering software, all the kind of personalities are needed. The more variation you have in the personalities, the more you will be able to resolve impossible problems. So this is quite important. Build a team which is diverse inside, in its foundation. This means obviously trying to balance junior and senior levels. So having a team with younger people and senior people, and this also triggers important dynamics, because the senior will help the younger people to grow, and doing this they will have to force to refresh their knowledge. And this is an important dynamic. Also, you have to mix different genders and also different cultures. Moreover, you should not spend too much on weak people. So try to analyze your board, the board which you build, to see if you are maybe spending too much time on weak candidates. And the lesson is, don't spend too much time on weak candidates. Try to focus on the candidates that seems to be good. Respect the candidate. I said before, you should give the candidate the short feedback as possible in all the phases. But you also should offer the candidate a fair assessment process, which is maybe strong and hard. Should be hard, but should be also fair. So offer a safe environment when he or she can show his skills and capabilities. And if you build such an environment for your hiring process, you will attract candidates that will be more compatible with your values. So this is an important point in my experience. Then I also learned that over time it's important to collect hiring checklists and driving questions, I call them. So hiring checklists are just a list of questions that I made myself when I'm evaluating a candidate in each step. So they help me see if I'm spending my time in a proper way. So they are just You know, we use checklists in every step in our process. Probably if I want to see if a definition of done in an agile team is a sort of checklist. So I try to use this kind of approach even in the hiring area. So, and we collect checklists and we put in our internal wiki. This is also important to let the process grow, because if we have a place where we have the kind of checklist that we follow and the kind of question that we use, we can help other wannabe recruiters to become to become recruiters in our process. So if we have a new member that want to help recruiting, it's just quite easy. You should show him the process that you define, and he can work quite fast on it. Then another lesson is using interns and graduates. So bring in your team younger people coming from university, coming from other that are younger and that bring new, fresh energy in your team. Because, as I said, young people can bring new ideas and can help senior people to refresh their knowledge. Sometimes we tend to maybe get used to behaviors and say not be congruent. When you have new people, younger especially, that make uncomfortable questions. Why do you say that we do TDD while you just wrote the production code without a failing test? This kind of questions and dynamics can really help a team grow. So bring in interns and graduates. Another lesson is in doubt, when you are not sure, don't hire. It's better to lose a good candidate than to take a candidate that is just not fit then. So we tend to use this policy. If we don't reach consensus at the end of the process, so at the end when we collect all the information, we have a sort of Roman consensus. So if even one of us is not so sure that the candidate is good enough, and if we cannot come to a consensus, even talking about this kind of confusion we don't hire the candidate, and we are happy with this. When it comes to deciding, I try to make up my opinion and my mind before asking my teammates their opinion, because sometimes I don't want to be biased by them. So this is a principle that I use. Also, beware of cargo culting. So don't build a process that seems this is just copy and paste by Googling it. Try to build the process, as I said, in an iterative way. So start where you are, start small, visualize your process with a board, bring on HR, talk with them, spot and realize improvement opportunities, and take all that opportunities to improve. But don't just start with an impossible process to follow. So this is the end. So my recommendation is to really reboot your recruitment process. And for this, I want to leave you with these exercises. Just three. When you come to work, try to do this. The first one is you should, as I said, try to visualize all your process, all your recruitment process, and discuss the outcome of what you visualized with your team and with your HR. Second, try to start asking questions coming from what you see, What is working in your process? What is not working? Use the drawing that you made to guide you, to drive you. And try to ask you even also how your current recruitment process is helping you to grow and to become what you want to become. And I leave you with a couple of recommended readings that are the books that I quoted in slides. Agile Hiring by Sean Landis and Hiring Geek That Fit. There are many other books that you will find Googling it. So thank you. Thank you very much.